Welcome back, everyone. If you notice a foul odor while watching this video, it's because we're about to head into Dearborn, Michigan, an Islamic armpit of the U.S. Dearborn's also a test case, as if another one was needed, for what happens when people who hate Western traditions and values invade the West, elect their own leadership, and begin to do things their way, like Pakistani migrants did with Keir Starmer in the UK. A few weeks ago, the Muslim mayor of Dearborn, whose name is Abdullah, because aren't they all, responded to a Christian who objected to naming a city street after an Islamic extremist.
Because you are a bigot, and you are a racist, and you are an Islamophobe. And although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city. Because you are not somebody who believes in coexistence. You're somebody who tries to preach it, but in fact you do everything but that. So I just want to put that on the record.
After waiting all this time for an apology, unsurprisingly, none came. In response to the backlash, the mayor of Armpit, Michigan, read a prepared statement about the incident that was so shallow and bland it doesn't deserve mention. So this gives us an excellent opportunity to highlight one of the major flaws of progressive Muslim leaders like this one. These people, who are so frequently members of the far left, pretend to want all of the key words and phrases: equitable treatment for all, inclusivity, diversity, etc. But Islam is one of the most oppressive, misogynistic, bigoted, racist, supremacist, barbaric ideologies ever to plague humanity. These things can't coexist. But because these progressive Muslims are members of a protected class in left-wing thought, their obvious, glaring ideological flaws are rarely pointed out. And when they are, it's rhetoric to the rescue. Just hold up that Islamophobe shield. That should silence you.
You are an Islamophobe.
To put it another way, most, if not all, of what these Islamist leftists criticize in the West, or pretend to criticize, can be found to a much more severe degree in their own prophet, in their own religion. So, at the risk of being Islamophobic,
You are an Islamophobe.
let's do the unthinkable and read for ourselves some of Islam's most authentic sources. We'll focus on the concept of coexistence.
Because you are not somebody who believes in coexistence.
Now, you may think you know where this video is going. Mayor Abdul of Armpit, Michigan criticizes someone for not wanting to coexist, and then I say, guess who else didn't believe in coexisting? That's right, Muhammad. And then I show you proof from Islam's most trusted sources. You may be onto something there, but first, we need to get one thing straight. According to Islamic sources, considered supremely authentic for many centuries, there is something you really need to know about the Prophet of Islam that's especially relevant for leftist Muslims. The Islamic sources really want you to know that Muhammad was not black. No, he was not brown. He was not even light brown. He was white. Islam's most authoritative hadith tell us that people referred to him generally as that white guy. His face was white. His cheeks were white. His forearms were white. His armpits. Yes, his armpits were white. That's very important information, apparently. His belly was also white. His thighs were white. And the rest of his legs were white, too. I can read your mind. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Okay, here we go. He had a white complexion. Check. White cheeks. Check. White forearms. Check. White armpits. Check. A white belly. Check. White legs. White legs. We need white legs. Perfect. No, wait, I see black ears. Can't have black ears. Maybe this. Or this. Okay, whatever, you get the point. The guy was white. So what did the white prophet say about coexisting? Did Mayor Abdul condemn his own religion and prophet like these leftist Muslims do basically every time they open their mouths? Let's start with how the Quran orders its human and animal hierarchy. According to chapter 98 of the Quran, disbelievers among the people of the book and idolaters, so basically disbelievers writ large, are the worst of creation. Chapter 3, Muslims are the best of creation. Muslims are the best of creation, disbelievers are the worst. Chapter 5, you who believe do not take the Jews and Christians as allies. Well, Mayor Abdul's got that one covered. Whoever of you takes them as allies is already one of them being evildoers. To emphasize how deplorable these people are, Allah reminds us in the Quran that some Jews were even turned into animals, including apes and pigs. Thankfully, there's some silver lining here because this expands into the Hadith in fascinating and hilarious ways. I love reading about Muhammad counting the fingers of a lizard to see if it was a transformed Jew before he ate it. That's right, Muslims, your prophet spent many desert nights sitting around the fire trying to figure out what animals were descended from Jews, and your scholars spent many days debating whether the animals Jews were transformed into could reproduce. Maybe various animals we see today are descended from them. ridiculous. The dehumanization of non-Muslims in the Quran is also apparent in Surah 25, where people who don't live up to their potential as Muslims are regarded as cattle, confirming without a doubt that the Quran revealed by the white prophet defies coexistence is chapter 9. Fight those who do not believe in God or the last day and do not forbid blah, 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 until they pay tribute out of hand, and they are disgraced. This verse, among many more, have led to the severe oppression of non-Muslims living under Islamic rule for centuries. Hold on a second. Just looking back through all this to try to find some inclusion and equity. Strange. Nothing. So what do we say to Allah and His Messenger?
You are a bigot.
Correct. But certainly things get better when we look at Sharia law, right? Well, here's one example of how Islam divides people up into a hierarchy. The indemnity for the death or injury of a woman is 1/2 the indemnity paid for a man. In context, that would be a Muslim man. It's even less if you are a Jew or a Christian. That's only 1/3 the value of a Muslim. But if you are a Zoroastrian watching this, I'm sorry to disappoint you. You're only worth 1/15 of a Muslim. Here's another section from Islamic law talking about how non-Muslims can coexist with Muslims. Such non-Muslim subjects are obliged to comply with blah, 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 blah. In addition, they, in part, are not greeted with the Arabic greeting. They must keep to the side of the street, cannot build higher than or as high as the Muslims' buildings, and are forbidden to build new churches. Hold on a second. Has to be some equality and inclusion in there somewhere, right? Maybe some fairness? No, just bigotry.
You are a bigot.
Now let's turn to Muhammad's example in the Hadith. The Prophet of Islam said, "Do not greet the Jews and Christians before they greet you, and when you meet one of them on the roads, force him to the narrowest part of it." Muhammad also intended to expel all Jews and Christians from Arabia entirely, leaving only Muslims. Wow, this white prophet is sounding a little bit supremacist, gotta say. If you've watched the video this far, you deserve a free bonus. Let's hear it from another left-wing Muslim head case. Take it away, Ilhan.
There is no legacy to honor. It was a legacy filled with bigotry, hatred, and white supremacy.
These people don't like white supremacy, but they love the supremacist attitude of their white prophet. They don't like bigotry, but bigotry is ingrained in their religion. They can recite the trendy words, but Islam has nothing at all to do with any sort of equality or fairness. People like Mayor Abdul of Armpit, Michigan, are either extremely stupid or they're leveraging whatever they can to gain power. Stupid because it's demonstrably obvious that their own religion contradicts in no uncertain terms the values they pretend to affirm. Alternatively, they're using whatever leverage they can to gain power and influence in Western society so they can fundamentally change it for the better, Islam style. In this case, we don't have to guess. Mr. Mayor gets a little power, a little prestige, the ability to affect change. Then he names a street after a terrorist supporter, and when someone has a problem with it, Abdul goes on a rant and displays for us all that he has the same repugnant values as his white prophet. And he is so protected that weeks later he doesn't feel the need to apologize, which gives us even more clarity. The West has given people like this, and much worse, a permission structure for such behavior, and it needs to stop. And we begin by calling out the blatant hypocrisy of these ridiculous Abduls and making them answer for it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.